Hi, I'm Tyler Shell, and today my presentation is on how to play fantasy football. Fantasy football is a points-driven game in which the participants serve as general managers of the virtual teams that they have built throughout the draft, and they compete weekly with other managers for the championship. Fantasy football is a math-based game based on the real-life production of the NFL players. Participants usually tend to get together before the begin of the NFL season or a few weeks before the start of the season in order to come together and draft their team. Whether it's 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. People in a league, they all usually tend to get together and have like a draft party, as one would say. But I'm here to tell you about the game of fantasy football, how to have fun playing this game, how to successfully compete with other managers in this game, and how to ultimately win the championship. Starting and joining a fantasy football league is very simple. Whether you want to start a league yourself and be the commissioner or join the league of your friend, it's very simple. You just have to, the first thing you have to do is choose a website or an app to use. The main websites for fantasy football are ESPN Fantasy, NFL Fantasy, and Yahoo.com Fantasy. My personal favorite is a new app that has been recently introduced to the fantasy world, which is called the Sleeper app. It's it's a lot more interactive, creates a more fun experience with your fantasy teams, and that's just what it's all about. It's all about having fun and just being competitive and having a fun experience throughout the season. The draft. Within your league, you can either have the app randomize the draft order, or if you want to, again, make the game more fun, you can have a fun way to decide the draft order, like maybe purchasing a cameo of an NFL player in the league to announce your random draft order, and that gets the other people in the league going, ready for the season, excited because it was an NFL player that announced the draft order. It's all about just making the league as fun as possible and as interactive as possible. No matter what pick you get in the draft, there are strategies for each draft position. Obviously, the first is the best, but the first pick gets the last pick in the second draft. So it's always you have to be strategic throughout the draft, no matter what position you get. So standard scoring breakdown for the quarterback: you get 1 point for every 25 passing yards completed. You get 4 or 6 points for every passing touchdown, depending on the league style. You get 4 or 6 points for every rushing touchdown, and that's minus 1 point. It's minus 2 points for every interception the quarterback throws. Also, for a quarterback, it's every 10 yards rushing, they will get 1 point. For a running back, it's every 10 yards rushing, they'll get 1 point as well. For every 10 yards receiving, they'll get 1 point. And depending on the league style, for every reception they have, it'll either be 0.5 points or a half point or 1 full point. And for touchdowns, again, it just depends on the style of the league you're in. Whatever your commissioner has set, it's either 4 points per touchdown for a running back or 6 points per touchdown for running back. It's like that for any position. For standard scoring breakdown for wide receiver and tight end, it's 1 point for every 10 yards receiving, 4 to 6 points per receiving touchdown, 4 or 6 points per rushing touchdown, and again, it's a half point or it's a full point per reception. The standard scoring breakdown for a kicker is 1 point for every extra point made. They get 3 points for every field goal made from 0 to 39 yards. They get 4 points for every 40 to 49 yarder that is made. They get 5 points for every 50 to 59 yard field goal that is made, and so on and so forth. Weekly scoring / the playoffs. The team with the most points scored in any week will win that week's game and add a win to their record. So say it's the first game of the season. If you win your first game, you'll be 1-0, and you'll be moving on to the next week with one of the top tied for the best record in the league. At the end of the regular season, the top 6 or 8 teams, again depending on the style of the league that your commissioner chooses to do, will enter the playoffs to compete for the championship. If you end up as the number 1 or number 2 seed, so that means the best team or the 2 best teams in the league, the 2 best teams, the 2 best records, you usually will be gifted a first-round bye. Again, it's really all just depends on the league style that your commissioner decides to choose. There's so many different. If you're a commissioner, you can make your league so many different ways. But this is the standard. It's usually the 1 or 2 seed will end up with the first-round bye, and then the winners of the 2 first-round matches will move on to play those those two people that had the first round bye in the semifinals, and the two that come out of those semifinals with with a win will compete for the championship. Whoever scores the most points in the championship ultimately wins the league championship. Conclusion: fantasy football is a fun, competitive, and strategic game meant to bring people together. Meant to bring people together who all have a similar hobby. Most of the people playing fantasy football are very into football and are our friends or just have a lot of similar interests. But in order to be successful in fantasy football, you have to do the research. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the time and research, and it's really just it's studying. Honestly, it's just you have to do that in order to have a good team. It's luck too. Yes, it's luck, but if you want to compete and have a good record all year long, there's a lot of decisions and research you must do to be successful at that during the season. And there are various, for beginners and people that aren't die-hard fantasy football fans, there are a bunch of lists and magazines and websites and stuff that offer rankings and cheat sheets that people can purchase or read to use to their advantage during their draft and during the season to help them get the upper edge on an opponent or anything. And I would just say preparation and research dedicated to the game is easily the most important aspect of it in aspect of winning the league championship. But like I said, there's also luck involved. But if you want to be a successful, competitive fantasy football player, you're going to have to put in the research and time to do so. And in conclusion, it's just a fun game that we all play. Some play for money, some play for free, some play for other prizes. But in the end, it's a fun game. There's always next year. You don't need to get mad if you lose. And it's always just going to be competitive. But you need to do the research and put in the time in order to win and be successful at it. Thank you.